So we're going to be talking about the proposed UWM membership model, which you should have all received in an email or communication of some sort, with the intention that you would read through that and be fully versed on it so that I don't have to present the entire thing here this afternoon, which I will not do because it's quite lengthy. So moving right along, I just put this up there to remind me, I want to thank everyone who has worked on this project. This has been over a year that we've worked on this proposed membership model. The board has worked on it various times. It's come back to them. They've gone over again with revisions. We go back to the staff. We work on it, goes back to the board, more revisions. So the board's worked on it, staff's worked on it, leadership teams worked on it at length. Also had a volunteer team of ministers in the field, leaders in the field, lay people in the field that worked with me on this for several weeks to give all of their input. And we came back and forth with their comments, their suggestions, and we revised it over and over again. So since we first presented the concept last year at Annual Summit, it has been 12 months of being revised through different teams and people, as I mentioned earlier. So I thank everyone who's touched this. They've had a say in this. And some of us, all of us have poured our heart into it, a lot of work. And so that is what you received. So just a reminder, what was sent to you was not the actual bylaw or policy that would be voted on at convention this year. It was just a summary of all the things that will then, once we all agree, these are the things, they will be broken out into the bylaws and policies that would need to be voted on at conventions. That makes sense? So if you're looking at this and you say, hey, this is not a very complete policy. It's not the policy yet. It's really just the description and the bullet points of what would then create those policies so that we could have discussion around it. Okay, hopefully that was enough. So we are talking about the membership model. This is the rough sketch there that we have to represent it. So why are we doing this? It's the same reason we said last Annual Summit why we're doing it. There's been confusion about what a member is or is not, who a member is or is not, roles and accountabilities of members, roles and accountabilities of UWM board and staff. Again, we're looking on focus and clarity. That's what we want to create going forward, focus and clarity. And at the home office, we've been talking a lot about this is our year of focus and clarity, working a lot on that. The purpose of this is, the purpose of the Unity Worldwide Ministries membership system is to clarify the relationship between UWM and its members, as well as to establish a symbiotic working partnership that reflects our founder's vision and intention for thriving ministries in unity. And I love that we already spoke to this morning about their intention for the ministries, and I hope I laid out that they did have this intention for what we are in the middle of today. All right, so let's just talk about some of the overall aspects, general aspects of this membership model. There are two phases, the affiliate member phase and the partner member phase. There are two entity types in each phase. You have the individual, the leader in our ministries. These are ordained or licensed Unity minister or licensed Unity teacher, domestic or international, in good standing. Once you receive that document, we did have a definition of what in good standing means there, in case anyone is wondering what in good standing means. That has been clarified. Ministry is the second entity type. These are the organizations, UWM approved congregation, community, or service ministry. So we do now have three categories for our ministries: domestic again, or international, in good standing. So some of the questions that came up as we workshopped this with the board and with the volunteer team was things like, what is good standing? So we have to sit down, define that, go through our current policies and procedures so we can say, this is what good standing is, which we have done. So in total, we have 4 membership designations as a possibility: the affiliate Unity ministry, the affiliate Unity leader, the partner Unity ministry, and the partner Unity leader. And that's what I'm going to present on that. So yes, I was expecting you should have read it. You should have done your homework so you could come cognizant and aware of the conversation we can have. So now we are just open to have questions and comments and conversation about it, online or in person. So our team is monitoring the online. I believe our sound is working again so we can hear you. Again, you're going to raise your digital hand if you're online and your physical hand if you're in person. And the membership model is in the chat. If for any reason you did not get it, you can check it out there. If you're a speed reader, now's your chance to shine. I always laugh at my own jokes. No. Okay. So any questions or comments? Are you scratching your head? Do you have a question? Roxanne? Here, I'll do this. We'll play this game.
I just wanted to say that I really appreciate the 3 types of ministries and the clarity, and I really appreciate that a lot. I've been confused about what our ministry types were for years, and now we've got 3 very definite, very clearly defined ministries.
The lighting is amazing on you, right? By the way, this awesome halo. Thank you. Yeah, so that is an aspect of this process as we were going through it, was really what we need to clarify are the ministries we have, because we're going to be talking about these ministries, so maybe I'll clarify that. So thank you for that feedback. That's helpful feedback, and I appreciate it. Okay, anyone else? If you just 100% love it, you fully get it.
Sharon has a question online.
Okay.
Comment.
Yes, in regards to the affiliate and the partner, is the intention that everybody will become a partner? Like we're moving, that people who are affiliates will go and no longer be an affiliate and move to being a partner? Or will there be 2 separate aspects, affiliate or partner and partner?
All right. Well, if Doris was going to answer that question, having been a Unity minister for nearly 30 years now, I know that we can't make anybody do anything. So we would love it if every affiliate became a partner. But whether or not you choose to do that is totally up to you.
I 100% agree. Yeah, our intention is to have everyone be partners, to be at that level of engagement. But we give you the option to choose your level of engagement with UWM. You can either be disaffiliated entirely, you can be an affiliate, or you can be a partner. It's going to be up to your level of engagement, and that'll be up to you to decide. But yeah, our intention is to have everyone be partners, but we're not going to mandate that or dictate that.
Right. Okay, I have another question, and this is from my board. So they're concerned if we went into the partnership and that we had to follow the bylaws, and you added something in the bylaws, like we're enforcing the 32 statements of faith and everybody has to be a vegetarian. Is that something that they need to be concerned about? I'm just asking their questions. Sorry, I'm just the messenger.
I think you've done a wonderful job of representing your board. Congratulations. I'm going to go back to the answer I just gave you. If we can't make you be a partner ministry, we certainly can't enforce 32 statements of faith on anybody.
Yes, so we don't want to be in the business of enforcement. It's not a fun part of the business, and we really don't have the resources. I mean, for all the history of churches worried about UWM coming in and policing their ministry, we never really had the resources to do that. So,
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Not to mention, do you know anyone who's in the Unity Police? We don't
Yes.
have one.
are we hiring? So yes, either way, I don't want to be in the business of enforcement any more than I have to. There are aspects of what we do in terms of protecting our brand, in terms of the ERS system, where we are forced to step into a place of enforcement. It's my least favorite aspect of this position and what UWM is drawn into doing. UWM doesn't want to do it either as an organization. We have some responsibilities as an organization to have this as an aspect of what we do. But there's very few areas where we do that. But in general, we don't want to enforce things on the ministries. We want to invite a partnership. We have some suggestions of things that we think will work with your ministry. We have things we want you to be cognizant of. We think our bylaws template has been vetted. It is working for the ministries that are using it, and it has protections in place. And just a little tangent here, but a lot of people don't know the bylaws template came about because Len Young and our staff at the time we're getting called by ministries and it's saying, we're getting dragged into a lawsuit, or we're having this happen, or we're having this happen. And Len and the team would say, well, let's see your bylaws. And he'd go, oh my goodness, where did you get these bylaws? These have opened you up to all sorts of liability to your board, your minister. You guys are not protected. So he sat down and said, I need to write you a bylaws template. So these ministries are protected in these for all these different situations, and to give the rights to the membership that should be there and all sorts of things. So he worked really hard on this to help you all be protected and help function in a healthy ministry. That's how they came about. It wasn't out of, oh, we need to create something to enforce on our ministries. It's a bylaws template. No, it came out of the grassroots of this team and him seeing a giant gap in protection for our ministries, their boards and leadership, putting together this template that we can use. So it's still a valuable template, even though it's not mandatory. We still highly suggest you use it because he put a lot of work into it. And even, you know, he left this planet last year, but I talked to him not too long before that. And he said, you know, that was it was a powerful piece of work I put my life into. And I still hope the ministries use it. And he was very proud of that work he did. So it is a very powerful piece. So there are suggestions we have that we think are going to help your ministry. We don't want to enforce them. We don't want to mandate them. So we're going to say, well, here's are the things we recommend.
And if you want a personal example, I got fired by one vote of my congregation because of the annual membership renewal. So people who don't want to renew their annual membership, that's fine, but I'm an example of what can happen if you don't enforce that.
Got some
All right.
other questions online. Kathy Harwood Long is first.
Thanks. Good to be with everyone. Want to appreciate the language, some of the language anyway that we're using, partnering. I'm all for partnering, want to partner with Unity Worldwide Ministries. I have a question that's specific to the branding under partner, second phase partner ministry. I've already been in discussion over the last couple of years with staff at UWM about branding. And I noticed that you've got some exemptions given for historical buildings. I would hope that that would include ministries that are already existent. We don't have a building. We don't want to build a building, but we do have our own brand with our name on our website. And this is where I finally stopped because of this branding of how we have our websites look with a certain usage of name and all. It seems small, but it's not in a way in the culture of the ministry I serve. So how will you handle those kinds of exemptions that are outside of that you've identified?
So really the exemption there is for people in a scenario where they really don't have the physical ability to do something about it. So we've got ministries that have been around long enough that it's carved into the concrete and the masonry out front of their building of the name of that ministry. That's a scenario where I'm not going to step in and say, give me a chisel, let's fix this. They are in a scenario where they can't just go and change their website name. It's chiseled on the front of the building. But even some of those ministries have included our branding, except that what's on the building is their historical history of who they are, but what they put on their flyers, what they put on their website is the branding. So when I speak about the branding, again, I think about it from my perspective. We talked this morning about UWM is now taking an active effort in promoting your ministries. And we do that through promoting the logo. The way people are going to recognize the ad that we created to match a ministry that they're looking for is that branded logo. If they don't see that logo, it's going to be hard for them to connect that this is the Unity that they just saw in that ad or that social media post or that video or whatever it was. Because as I pointed out to anybody, pull up your town and search for the word unity. There's probably at least 15 organizations in your city that have unity in their name, from a gas station to a church to a yoga studio. So how does someone know that this is the unity of the Fillmores that they're looking for? It's that branded logo. So it's not just about us saying, here, we think you need to look like this. It's starting to create a look that people will recognize around the world as, this is the unity I read in the Daily Word. This is the unity of Unity Magazine. This is the unity of the Fillmores. So I highly encourage making that transition, even though it might be difficult because we've been really attached to a name we've had for a long time. What you do is up to you, and that's where we have the flexibility. But the specific area you're talking about is really for people in a place that can't change what is carved into their building, what has been the foundational element of the structure and the thing that's happening there. That's what we were thinking about with that. So I can have a conversation with your board. I do meet with boards to talk about branding, to try to help them understand what the intention is there, if that's something anybody wants. But I don't know if I answered your question all, but that was what came to mind.
All right, Marty's next, Marty Newman.
Yeah, having been a member of the Unity Police and unfortunately having to deal with that in the past, do we create benefits for people being at certain higher levels so that if they do not comply, they can't have those benefits? And the benefits accrue only when you are in compliance. So that if you, so that's, anyway, that's the idea. I think that's sufficient to say.
The answer to that is yes. If you look at that, you will see that there are benefits to being a partner minister or a partner church.
Yes, some of those things, so I'll give you an example. Every time I bring it up, I could say you can't hold me to it yet because we can't really do this until this system is put in place. I use the example of music licensing. I've been talking to music licensing organizations. If I can tell them how many people have met on Sunday in our partner ministries, UWM could potentially hold the music license for our ministries. It's not the Posse music license, but the ASCAP BMI music license. I would need to have, that would be offered to our partner ministries, that we would hold the music license for you. We would be reporting to them that you are one of the ministries that we hold the music license for. An affiliate ministry would not have that benefit because we'd only be offering up the count of how many partner ministries come under that license. That's the type of thing they'd say, well, why wouldn't we offer it to the affiliates? Because the partner ministries are at an engagement level financially, energetically, spiritually to help us fund that, because that would cost us a considerable amount of money to do that. So we'd be leaning on our partners to be giving towards that effort because they recognize the buying power of us coming together. And if the affiliates don't see benefit to that, then they can stay at the affiliate level and not have the benefits of that partnership.
Okay. All right, next is Wendy Craig Purcell.
I have actually two questions and appreciation for the thought that has gone into designing the model. I've read it a couple of times, marked it up with some questions. The two questions I have, the first one has to do with the UWM tax umbrella. And I know that this is languaged with the partner ministries for new churches coming in. My confusion is around, does that mean that our churches would not be applying anymore for their own 501c3 licensing?
Yes.
Do you mean churches starting out new or churches currently in place?
Both, actually.
So the intention would be that as new ministries are started and planted, that they would be planted under the umbrella going forward. That would be our intention. Does that answer your question?
Yes. How about for current ministries?
Current ministries, it's not mandatory at either phase. So again, it's one of those things we highly encourage because we think it's a valuable asset to you, but it's not mandatory that you would have to now go change your business affiliation to be under a tax umbrella. So we have a list of a lot of things that we think are very beneficial to you. But yes, some churches already have their own 501c3, and we recognize that.
So is there a place that I can go and look and see what you believe are the benefits to, say, our church being under the UWM tax umbrella? I'm not sure I understand that.
Well, there may not be a benefit for your church specifically, and that would be for you to decide.
Okay.
The benefits I think might be biased because I'm the president and CEO of Unity Worldwide Ministries. So,
And Shad, I'm open. I'm just trying to understand what you perceive the benefits, and I don't expect you to dialogue and like with me. I thought there might be a place I could go
right,
find
there's
information.
right. We take off some of that tax stuff that you have to do onto us, and we're filing some of that for you. And you're just getting us information through the annual report to be able to do that.
Okay.
We could put together probably the benefits that we think. We have not done that yet, so I'm not going to speak too much to it because then I'd be making stuff up.
And
So
then the
we
second.
do not
question-
have that. We could have that.
All right. Second question I have is probably easier to answer. It has to do with the branding. And it has to do, and this is because I'm not part of the branding program. I've looked at it and I like the look of it, but I'm not sure we're willing to step into that. But a question I have about the branding is, does the use of the branding also require using whatever web design or web service is currently in place?
No, you can use whatever web provider you want to. So when you look at the branding, it's your outward face for people to recognize you as a unity organization. That's the way I see it. It's got suggested color schemes for you to follow so that there's a consistent look throughout all of us. The logo, of course, and then there's some fonts and stuff like that. People say, I can't believe you're trying to mandate we can't have the Unity wings in our building. You can have the Unity wings tattooed to your forehead if you want. I don't care. You can have Unity wings all over the place. We're talking about when you're representing yourself to the public, when you're putting out a flyer, when you're putting out a bulletin, when you're putting these things together, people see this logo that helps them attach what branding is across the nation. If you want to put together your Wednesday meditation bulletin you're going to slap up in your church and you've got a logo for your Wednesday meditation, it doesn't have to be the Unity branded logo. We're creating a consistent look for the public to see. Your congregation's going to hopefully see it now and then and recognize this is our global movement of unity that we all have. But again, no one's walking through your ministry and saying, wait a minute, that flyer right there for that Qigong thing's got some weird logo on it.
No, I understand that. Thank you.
It's really just the overall look. So if it is the image on your, the website, the top corner, this is the branded image. You could have all sorts of other stuff in your website that's for each individual thing happening, but we're trying to create that generalized first impression. Person sees and goes, aha, this is the same as Unity Worldwide Ministries. This is the same as Unity World Headquarters, Data Alert, etc.
Good.
Thank you.
All right, Carol
So there's
Hunt
lots
is-
of ministries that have the wings still hanging over the stage. I think that's beautiful. It'd be weird if our logo was hanging over their stage. So it's just recognizing the use, and it's free now. And I don't know if everyone knows it's free to be branded now. Whereas before, like when I joined at U of Las Vegas, we had to pay.
Next up online is Carol Hunt.
Thank you. In an overall sense, without being specific, there are things that are highly recommended, encouraged strongly for ministries. I want to get a sense of how that word highly or recommended or recommended will be used in the evaluation of ministries as you go through the list and see where you you fall. That's one question. I also want to know the word legacied. Does that mean grandfathered in? And the third question has to do with if you are in a ministry and the leadership is not credentialed, and it's not credentialed and is not looking to become credentialed for a variety of reasons, does that mean that ministry cannot be a unity ministry and use the word unity?
So legally speaking, as we mentioned this morning, the support service organization owns the trademark for the name Unity as it is used in terms of anything relating to church or ministry and education. So Unity gas station can operate all day long. That's not under our guise of the trademark. Unity Yoga Studio would probably be stepping into our trademark. Unity Church of any sort, Unity Baptist Church, Unity Episcopalian Church would be definitely stepping into our trademark. There's currently thousands of them because we have not been protecting our trademark. Jim and I, as part of our agreement, is we want to do a lot better of protecting our trademark. So we're doing a lot more of contacting these ministries and organizations that are using the name. Our intention, first and foremost, is to get every Unity ministry working in accordance with UWM, getting credentialed leadership in place. We've got several different options to do that. And so before we talk to ministry and say, you have to stop using our name, we say, what can we do to help you get some form of credentialed leadership in place? Because we just see that that is the healthiest future for a ministry. And when there's not credentialed leadership in place, that tends to be when things head down the not so happy rabbit hole. So if we can step in and get credentialed leadership in place, it works better for the ministry, works better for the organization, that relationship as a whole. So our first intention, the ministry team, is to reach out and say, here are the options. Which one can we head in to help bring you back into alignment to make sure this works so we don't have to have the conversation about using the name or not. If the ministry says this is absolutely not a direction we're willing to go in, then they mention that you can't use the name. If they're ignored, it's bumped up to me, then I have to reach out. And if again, they don't ignore me, then we have to step it up to legal. And then it goes on from there. So that is a process I do not enjoy, but it is part of some of the things we do. The other two questions. Oh, in terms of recommended, highly recommended. Again, these things are things that we highly recommend because we believe they're going to create a better relationship and a healthier movement as a whole. And one thing, it's interesting, we have new staff members join us or new ministry joins us, and I talk to people that come from the outside or just new to the movement. They say, why don't ministries really recognize this as a collective? They really see themselves as a ministry and they look at what's in it for me, as opposed to, I see there's a greater good going on here through an entire movement. Part of what I'm doing is supporting that movement. So part of one of those things is, when you're under the tax umbrella and if unfortunately a church dissolves or closes, the assets roll back up to Unity Worldwide Ministries so we can reinvest in the movement. We can reinvest in new ministries, new projects, things like that. So we recognize there's a movement going on here. It's not just about my location might have struggled and closed. It's about if that happens, these assets go on to sprout new ministries, new opportunities, because there's a movement at work here. So again, you'll get to choose your level of engagement. So we talk about the suggested amount of giving per year. The only thing that's mandatory is something is being given at the partner level. We'll verify something is being given. That is up to you. Just like a suggested donation or a suggested offering you do in your church, we're putting out one there that we feel is a fair and equitable amount for this partnership. Middle question, grandfathering versus, what was the word?
Legacy.
Legacy. We were using the term grandfathered. I was part of the DEI training we're getting and everything else. I was informed that that is not an appropriate term because of its historical reference. So we dropped grandfathered and we went to legacied because it has the same meaning, but it's more appropriate. Yes, there was a meeting about that. And I learned things.
One of the things that I can say in support of Shad, and if I would have thought quicker, my answer would have been different to start with. But I can tell you that he doesn't do anything in a vacuum. I know that when you're in the field and involved in your own church and all the things that go with that, if you weren't personally contacted and asked, it looks like somebody on high made a decision. That isn't how it works. Everything that we do is part of reaching out to people, teams. We consult other ministers. And if you're not, I'm going to say on our list of consultants, which we don't call it that, but call in, tell them you want to be involved. We ask people. So you're all involved in supporting the decision. I've been part of a lot of these teams. So.
Yeah, and when I make sure, when I say we, I'm referring to the staff and the board. We talk about what is our intention for the brand, for the ministries, what are our policies, and these are the decisions we make. And then oftentimes I'm charged with putting into place.
All right. Next up online is Laura Bennett.
Hi, first of all, I'm with Wendy on appreciating everything that's gone into this. This has been a lot of thoughtful work and has some clarity to it that wasn't there before. So thank you so much for that. I do have a couple of questions. Wendy brought up the tax umbrella. And I know in my early on alternative ministry, I had trouble receiving large gifts unless they went through the UWM office because I wasn't a church ministry. So I was under the UWM tax umbrella and didn't have my own 501c3. So I would appreciate that little point being looked into because it might be difficult for ministries that aren't church ministries to receive larger gifts unless they go through UWM. I just appreciate that being looked into. And because I want to have a partner ministry and the branding on the public things that's good. But I'm also looking at just a general request that if you don't follow this criteria, you won't be eligible for UWM grants. And I'm thinking, what about the smaller what about ministries that are still developing, working at moving toward partnership, but they're not there yet, but they need the grants to get there. So I'm just questioning that a little bit. And I hate to throw so much at you, but I do feel this is an important question. I'm just assuming this does not apply to ministries outside North America.
We have to work some of those intricacies out for the international ministries and how that's going to roll out. That'll be something that we have to start working on probably before the vote to get clarity on that. Has been brought to our attention that they can't physically send anything to UWM because of different laws that are in place and things. So that's a side of it we do have to work out. So appreciate you also pointing that out. And that's something that's come to our attention. So we'll work with our international department on trying to figure that side of things out.
Okay.
Any other question? Oh, so you were talking about getting a large gift. So I assume from a donor or a bequest or something to your ministry.
Right. I had the experience that the donor who was going to give noticed I didn't have my own 501c3, didn't want to send it. And because I didn't have my own 501c3, and it ended up, now your office totally cooperated. Thank you very much and helped me receive that gift through you. But it might be a snag in the future just because church ministries are clear on that. No question, people give, you're under another umbrella, no big deal. But when you're an organization that doesn't define yourself as a facility with a congregation, it can be a little tougher.
Okay, so I haven't heard of that happening. That's news to me. So maybe other people that have a similar ministry could talk to you how they've dealt with that, if that's ever come up for them. And then maybe we could have a training around that, or when people start one of those ministries, we could talk about how that process could unfold. So if someone could take note of that on staff, that'd be great. So we will take note of that. I believe you had a third question. We're really good at remembering questions here.
Oh, that was just
one question at a time would be helpful.
I'm sorry. That was about the developing ministries who need grants, but can't get them unless they're in partnership.
So the partnership phase is not designed to discriminate against the size of a ministry. There should really be nothing there that indicates you have to be a certain size of ministry to be able to have access to this. It's determined by your engagement with Unity Worldwide Ministries. And so if you're engaged with Unity Worldwide Ministries, then you have access to the benefits that Unity Worldwide Ministries has to offer. But again, there are groups out there that are still trying to decide if they're Unity or not, and they're still working towards become officially a Unity recognized organization. We want to reserve the funds that you all give to us and that we get through bequests and different things for the ministries that are really engaged and working with us to grow this movement. And we do give, I do give tithes, I do give support to new ministries that are getting started and they're getting going, and that's something we're gonna do more of. But we do want to reserve those funds for those ministries that are working with us and they do understand where we're going and we can help fund them to get there.
Got it. Thanks for the question and answer time.
You're welcome.
Okay, the next online is Shay. I'm not even going to try to pronounce and butcher the last name, so I will just say Shay.
Greetings. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for allowing for the Q&A. Shed, you just brought up the point that in the bylaws, it talks about when a unity dissolves, that the assets go to Unity Worldwide Ministries. And I just have a question regarding that. There's some ministries where land has been given to them and buildings have been given to them, and they've become assets of those organizations. And I think it's wonderful. On one hand, if the assets go to Unity Worldwide Ministries to extend the movement. My question is if those assets go to Unity Worldwide Ministries, does UWM look to create another Unity in that same location, or do they use it and decide whatever they're going to do with those assets?
You would wait a long time in some cases to have another Unity Church in that. They go to other developing ministries, but not necessarily in, I'm from Delta, Ohio, so not necessarily from Delta, Ohio.
Yeah,
So
one of the
and
things
it's
recognized, and that's so that we do have we have an exact policy written on where those funds go to. So when those funds go in, they are designated by percentage to different accounts. And one of those accounts is a ministry planting fund, which is specifically for planting new ministries. Historically, we tried to hold on to those funds to open a new ministry in that specific area. And what we found is we had these delegated assets sitting in an account that we couldn't do anything with, and there was nobody opening a ministry in that area. So there could be $250,000 sitting there that you all probably would love to have access to and could do something wonderful to, but it was earmarked for an area where no one was opening a ministry and no one had an intention of opening a ministry ever, necessarily. So we realized that that plan, as well-intentioned and as beautiful initially sound, was not working, because you can't just say, go open a ministry in that area. It doesn't happen that way. So now we've changed that policy that these funds are split up into the accounts so they can be used by the HUG fund for grants, by the ministry planting fund to start new ministries, and for some going to the operations budget to help us keep the operations going as they are. Another aspect to what you're talking about, people donating land and assets to a ministry. And I can only say from the Unity Worldwide Ministries perspective, if we're talking in our ministries about the fact that we are a movement and that we're all contributing to a movement, even our congregants are contributing to a worldwide movement, we're getting this message around the world, there would hopefully start to establish a mindset that anything we give to this ministry is a gift to the whole movement. That we step out of this idea that Unity is one location, one building, or an online ministry at this website or this URL, but that it's all tied together as a movement. We're growing to get this message around the world to transform humanity and consciousness of the planet. So that would be a shift in us to think about, yes, and I see, and something that it does concern me, I talk to ministries that are going through this unfortunate situation of closing. And what you find is that board members believe this money is theirs, or ministers and leaders in that ministry believe this money is theirs. And at the nth hour are trying to manipulate the bylaws and things to find a way to make it under their control. And that's, well, one, illegal and concerning, but it does happen. And even when it's not trying to get into their personal pocket, they want to make sure they have the resources to put it places they want it to go. And the last thing on their mind is there's a greater movement here. This was a Unity ministry founded by Unity people with the intention to help Unity grow. So we're trying to get that back into an understanding that this is a worldwide movement. If you think about your ministries closing, that's a really painful thing to go through, but it's also a rebirth opportunity for a new ministry or helping another ministry in another area to grow and expand.
As I said, I've been a unity minister for nearly 30 years. And back in the day, it sort of felt like we had unity franchises. We were ordained, sent out, and I won't say ignored, but sometimes it felt that way. And I believe that that's where some of the mentality of this is our money rather than this is unity money originated. And not only do we want to change the language, if you listen to everything we've presented, we want to change the experience. What Unity Worldwide Ministries is here for is to support you so you don't close. So that is, the mindset may not have been the one I described. I can simply tell you it was how it felt sometimes. And so if you had that experience and it felt that way, we are sorry. You know, we regret that we ever gave that feeling, and yet it's us, all of us together, and we're here to support you so you don't close.
All right, next question, as long as we're done with that one. Pat Ball has a question.
Hi, yeah, you probably have been expecting something from me about Canada. You know my passion for making sure that Canada is taken into the picture, because we are not just an independent association of unity, we are also a region. Canada is a region. And as such, we also have a unique situation that we cannot, as Canadian ministries, donate directly to UWM. We are not allowed to by our equivalent of the IRS, which is Canada Revenue. And so the way we do it is to give to our Unity Canada Association, which has a written agreement set up with the IRS that we can give purchase of services for UWM and send money to UWM. However, what is going to happen? So these legacied, I understand that first we will be legacied for a year because membership is for 1 year. So we will not be legacied forever, just 1 year. At the end of that year, we will be expected to donate. If we want to keep our voting membership in UWM as ministries, we will be expected to donate to UWM, which we cannot do. So how are you going to get about letting Nigeria, Australia, all these ministries that now have voting membership in UWM? And how is that going to be handled? Because if I'm no longer a voting member, what's the point? Anyway, so how is that going to be looked at? We cannot take part in your tax umbrella. We are not allowed to. We have to have our own individual tax coverage. And we cannot take part in your minister's retirement fund. So there's a lot of stuff that as Canadians, and I imagine as people in Nigeria, South Africa, Mexico, they cannot either. So how is that going to be handled to keep UWM an international organization?
I can't answer that. I don't know.
Yeah, it's sort of tailing off what we mentioned a little bit earlier. We do have to dive into the intricacies of how this applies to international ministries. Possibly we could just be looking at the engagement with their local affiliation in those countries or in that region itself. And that determines their engagement with Unity Worldwide Ministries, because they are a partner of ours. Are you engaged with our partner? Then yes, you are a partner of ours. So we'll have to work out those intricacies for the different countries, how that's going to play out. It is something that is on our radar. We're starting to look into that now. And I don't suspect that we're going to vote at this convention and this is going to be the perfect draft that'll never have to be adjusted for all time. Yes, I'm sorry. We have put a lot of work into this to really try to close as many holes as possible. A lot of different people looking at it. The international aspect actually just has been brought up in the last 2 weeks, I'd say, on our radar of, well, we can't do this internationally. So now that's one of these things we got to look at. But we will have to adjust it as it goes a little bit and probably have votes in the future on adjustments, but we want to get it as much right. So long story short, we are looking into it. We are going to probably have conversations with you and Canada Board and region, everything else, to talk about how we can do this. Again, our goal is to have all partners, not to be leaving people out. That is our goal.
All right, Reverend Thandy, Thandy, I'm sorry if I pronounced your name wrong, has a question.
Yeah, my question, good evening, everybody. I had to stay up like it's 10 at night just to be in this wonderful meeting. My question follows directly on clarifying the international issue. And I think Pat Ball has brought that up. As international ministries, at the moment, because we would love, our ministry in South Africa in particular, would like to be partners in partnering ministries. But as you say, we don't know how do we navigate around that at this point in time. One, if we want to be partners, how will that look like? And secondly, will international ministries be included in the branding process? And how are you gonna work that one out? Is it included, or should we still be keeping because I know for a long time, international ministries were excluded from Unity branding. And I suppose it was because Unity had an outside service provider or something, and the contract, the contractual agreements between UWM, whatever, probably it wasn't international or whatever. So I'd like to know how we're gonna navigate around those two issues. Thank you.
So the branding, I know that you can have now. I know you couldn't before, but you can have branding now. And
okay.
I can't answer the other question.
Yeah, so the international, again, we will be looking into that. It's probably taken me the 2 years I've been in this position to fully understand the relationship between UWM and our international affiliates and international schools. And that really we want to empower our international affiliates and schools to really manage the ministries, manage isn't the great word, support the ministries in their area because they understand the dynamics, the cultural intricacies of all that stuff. So coming into this, I thought, oh yeah, UWM, it just controls the world. No, that's not how it works. We have all these sister organizations that help us do this work. So we want to empower them even more so than we have in the past to really be able to do what they can do in their local areas because they understand that area. So we'll have to work out these sort of side part of this to address that and to support those organizations becoming partners with their ministries. The international branding, we did create a whole new branding document for our international ministries to sign so that you can now have branding internationally. So if you have not heard that or you have not had that yet, I'm sure you can reach out to Claudia Maltos Young. She has that information. And so you can sign that document, then you'll be allowed to use our branding. Because up until that point, we didn't see a reason. I'm getting signal from the side. Okay, so before we go to another online question, we got some questions in the chat, but just to let you know, we did get that feedback from the International Advisory Council. We addressed it, we modified our documents so they can do international branding now.
So I'm curious what the plan is to enforce this model. It's no secret that record keeping is not a strong suit and that we have all had our challenges with record keeping at the UWM level. So I'm curious what Will there be new staff to support the enforcement of this model? Or what would current staff stop doing in order to create time in their schedules to support this model?
I'm sure Shad's going to answer that, but enforcing is not a word that we intend to use. Tracking, we need to track this information, but it's not tracked from a point of view of we want to come after you. It's tracked so that we can answer your questions.
It's a great question, and the staff had the same question. Right. And so potentially if the vote goes through, and we pray that it does, and we see a vision that it does, it would go into effect probably January 1st next year. And so we've already put it back to the staff and the teams to say, what would you need to start doing this, to start managing this process? Part of that is bolstering our current CRM, our customer service system, which is currently software's Neon, which has the capability. It already does flag ministries that are affiliated, disaffiliated, closed, evolving. It has all those status information. So we can pull up a list of what status each ministry is based on what we've entered in. So for them, it would be just every time we do the annual report, you're going to pull up what ministries gave it all that year. And Neon will just tell you exactly what ministries gave it all that year. And you go, all right, well, these are eligible to be partners if they want to be. Did they fill out their AMR? Neon will be able to do automate a lot of those things for us. We can just say, show me ministries that filled out their AMR and gave something and whatever other metric I want, and it'll print out those list of ministries. Then the list of ministries that didn't, we can have it automatically send out a communication. Did you know you did not fill out your AMR? This would switch your status from partner to affiliate. The other thing we'd like to move to is the ability that as someone calls in, a phone number could potentially, if we had the software, which does exist, bring up that person's report as soon as they called. So the person answering the phone would see, is this affiliate or a partner? And already know what access they have to certain things based on what their status is in the CRM Neon. So those are the things we've tasked them with, to say, you know what you do on a day-to-day basis, how this would affect you, tell us what you're going to need to help implement this new process. So that's something that they have been discussing and working on. So thank you for acknowledging that they will be affected by this. And we don't want to add more workload onto them without having a reality check of what it will entail.
So they're asking, if we are not part of the branding program, can we still put a link with UWM's logo and say that we're a member of UWM?
Since it doesn't cost anything to be branded, why would you not want to just get branded?
Great question.
That's the part I'm still trying to figure out. So why is, I mean, I can only feel a cultural aversion to it. And I'm sure there's other issues with it I don't understand currently, but well, yeah, you can, if the logo is relating directly to the organization that has that logo, I wouldn't see an issue with that. You're saying, here's the link to Uni World headquarters, who does our printing and publishing and property and all those sort of things. You could have their logo there. And I've seen that people love their logo. And again, if you want to spray paint your logo across the back wall of your church, it's fine. But the outward facing aspect of your ministry, the general public may not really care either way what logo they think is better. I'm sure the congregation themselves is passionate about a logo and they're attached to a logo. Fine, they could see that logo internally, and you can have, this is our logo on a sign, this is our logo in the advertisements we do out in the city. This is, anyway, so to answer the question, I think that would be fine. If you put that logo with a link to that organization, you're just representing that organization. So the intention is, once we go back and revisit everything we heard today, we are going to revise it one more time, and we'll actually break it into the policy that would be voted on, as well as the bylaws changes that would be required to be voted on. That would go out to you in the weeks or a month ahead of the actual business meeting. So you could review that one more time, and then we would show up to vote on it. So just to give you a heads up of the process that is unfolding this year, this was our big time for feedback. We'll make some revisions, and then that'll be what's going to be voted on come business meeting. All right. Thank you, Doris, for joining me up here. Appreciate your input.